Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is your girl Mitzi, and this is Mitzi. Let's think about it. Today, we are thinking about walking blindly. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is the topic of focus that we are focusing on today. So, I have Kimberly here who's going to help us think about this in another way so that we can continue on thinking. So, with that being said, thank you so much, Kimberly, for coming on to my show, sharing your time and your perspective. I am excited to hear your thoughts on this. So let's just dive in, right? When you hear the words walking blindly, what does that make you think about?
Oh, I am a humongous planner, so it kind of strikes terror in my heart. But
Yeah.
I am also an adventurer. I am a traveler, all kinds of things that really require flexibility.
Yeah.
And um, I love the idea that I don't have to know everything about what I'm embarking on, that I can take the next right step.
Yeah.
And as long as I don't get caught up in having to see that whole staircase, it's working out well for me right now.
So that's good, because that's the problem with, I think, fear. You know what I mean? It creeps in, especially when you're walking blindly in darkness into the unknown, into the possibilities of what ifs and both spectrums, because there's always good and bad tied to any decision that we make. You know what I mean? So when you walk blindly, it's like scary because it's like, what is really going to happen? But the fact that you are able to just be like, you know what? Let's take this as an adventure, as something as optimistic, and that's the right frame of mind that I think a lot of people, are lacking. And why do you think it's so hard to just bypass fear when it comes to this?
Well, I don't at all agree with the idea of being fearless. I can say I'm fearless, but it's really a bold faced lie. I think courage is doing something
Yeah.
with the fear. We have this either or, like I can either be brave and courageous or I can be fearful and cautious.
Yeah.
But I can also be brave and adventurous and recognize I'm intimidated by my fears. And we all have fears. I think the idea that, the first time you picked up your microphone, did
Mm,
you have fears? Of course you did. It's intimidating. Did you
that's
do it? Absolutely. And so I think sometimes we want this either or. I am strong and brave, or I am weak and timid. But you know what? I have
yeah.
both sides of those and recognizing. And sometimes I think the fears, when they're speaking to us correctly and we're listening, not in a way of shutting us down, but we're listening, it says, hey, caution, you may want to learn more.
Oh, you like that last piece. You may want to learn more. Goodness, people don't add that in. But if you think about in that aspect of just learning more and just having that curiosity, it allows
Hmm.
possibilities to happen. You know what I mean? It allows that staircase that you can't see where it's going, and it allows the your imagination to possibly see a staircase going to another level or just
Yeah.
keep going up to the next level. You don't know, and it's like, oh, that is very deep. I mean, what other tips do you have when it comes to just taking that step into the unknown?
Well, um, reading. I am a humongous reader.
Okay.
Um, it could cripple me wanting to know everything about some topic. Um, the two biggest, is certainly in the last decade, but the two biggest things that I have done without knowing, five steps ahead are, well, the first thing I did was 20 years ago, having a baby. Dear Lord, there is no instruction manual on that. None, zero, zippo. And you're kind of making it up as you go. And guess what? You'll learn. You'll make mistakes. Your child will make mistakes. Your child will teach you if you're lucky. Um, but the two biggest things that I have done in the last decade were I moved onto a boat full time And I am not a sailor. I laugh and say I'm a gardener, not a sailor. I happen to marry the proverbial son of a sailor. Um, he can't remember a time when he didn't sail. So he has all kinds of fantastic skills that come to
Wow.
this.
Yeah.
Um, but I love to travel, but I had no notion I would ever hop on a boat with my 10-year-old daughter and my husband, a 34-foot boat. So we're talking about 300 square feet. Um, we sailed from Massachusetts down to Grenada in the Eastern Caribbean over the course of 2 years. And there to
Wow.
say I was pushed out of my comfort zone in every single direction is just a vast understatement. I mean, I
Oh.
learned it was like drinking from a fire hose. I was learning so much.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm glad you share that story and that part of you because that is truly terrifying. That is literally walking into the unknown. You know what I mean? Like, what? There's so many, excuses or situations that you could put in front of that no that are so valid. You know what I mean? That is valid. But the fact that you took that leap of faith, that you took that
Yeah.
impulsive decision and said, you know what, why not? And just like if it comes, it comes. We'll deal with it when it does. And you guys did it for 2 years, and with the storms, with the weather, with everything in between. Oh my goodness, what is the most like, if you don't mind sharing, what is the most like terrifying moment that you experienced on that boat?
Interesting. There's not many moments of terror that I
Right.
remember. There were two times underway that I was afraid. And my
Okay.
husband, who he is, he's one of those, what he brings to the table beyond his sailing skills and his, diesel mechanic and carpentry and electrical and plumbing and all. He just has all of those skills. But beyond that, he is home in just about any circumstance. And I tend to go, I ride highs, I ride lows, and,
Um,
I am a confused sea state, and he is dead calm. And when he sat me down in both of those instances, he said, "You are uncomfortable. You are not unsafe." Talk about mind blown. How many times do I feel afraid? And afraid of what? Dig deeper into that. But I think I am unsafe. But in fact, I'm really just
uncomfortable.
uncomfortable.
Oh my goodness, Kimberly. If that does not make somebody think about their situation in such a way, then I don't know why we're talking. You know what I mean? Because you just blew my mind because we
Yeah.
don't think about it in that aspect. We don't. We are uncomfortable, not unsafe. Oh my goodness. I'm going to put that on a sticky note and put it everywhere
Put it
against
on
my
your mirror.
wall. It's gonna be on my screensaver. Oh, that's gonna be my phrase for the new year because oh my goodness, that changes your perspective in so many ways. Because I'm a type of person, I know there's other people out there that won't do certain things if they feel unsafe. You know what I mean? Their sense of security is such a is very important, and so many people, their sense of security is everything. So if I don't feel safe, I'm not going to do something. But it's like I'm uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Let's really break
Yeah.
it down. I'm just uncomfortable. I'm not unsafe. I'm just uncomfortable. And I think when
Yeah.
we're able to just admit to the fact that we're just uncomfortable and I just need to just focus on just not on the mess, just refocus
Yeah.
my frame and reframe. That is amazing. And I love the fact that your husband is, steady and calm and he's because it's funny you describe him how he's the tricks of all trades. He knows how to do it all. Nothing's a no problem for him.
Yeah.
Because my husband, I am so thankful because he is the same way and he has literally changed my view on life as well just because of that mindset. Like I have never thought things were fixable until he fixed things in such a way that seems so simple that I was just like, oh, isn't that interesting?
It's such a mindset shift. Before we went sailing, um, one of my Mother's Day gifts the year before we decided to go was a book called It's Your Boat Too. And it's written by this real no nonsense gal who is a former um, naval officer and pleasure cruiser. And so she was, and one of the quotes, and I'm sure she's not the originator of the quote, but it's where I saw it the first time. She said the difference between an ordeal and an adventure is attitude. My attitude. I took that. I mean, talk about like be with kids. And generally, I take the let's have an adventure attitude. But I can remember my husband traveled a lot for work, and I was staying at home with my daughter, and we had 2 properties. And invariably, people don't check the heat until 10 o'clock at night when they're dying to turn it on. And then there's no pilot light. Like something that's a very simple fix. Like I know how to do that. I don't need any advanced degrees to know how to do that.
Yeah.
But a lot of times your tenants who haven't been homeowners have never done that. So they call and they say the heat's not working. Well, my husband's out of town. My daughter's in bed. And we're going on an adventure. It's not an ordeal. I'm like, okay, so the 3-year-old's sleep is interrupted for a night. She can take an extra nap tomorrow, whatever. We'll make it work. And we drive over. And so I have always looked at it like that, but I've never heard those words. Like, think about all the things that are ordeals. And something that comes to mind that I'm sure pretty much you and every one of your listeners has come across is travel.
Yeah.
Like, how many times have we chalked up travel as the worst experience ever? When it could be an adventure. If you have enough books to read, it certainly can be. It's like, I'm excited when I get stuck in a to read and no one telling me to put it down.
Right, exactly. And I think that's beautiful. In the earlier, when we first started talking, you also talked about being a mother and how, experiencing motherhood and that's brand new and you walk blindly into that because let's be honest, there's thousands of books of how to be a mother and how to prepare, but none of them never really tell you the truth of what to really expect when it's your own because why? It's your own. It's different. Life is going to be different. Everything happened is so different. They don't have a copy and paste for those books, because it's not realistic. Everyone's life is very subjective and different, and I'm a mother and oh my goodness, and I love preparing. So I know exactly what you mean and having this preparation, and then that mindset of just go with the flow. What's the worst going to happen? They sleep extra long tomorrow morning. Oh no, I can work out in peace or I can drink my coffee without hearing my name being called 5 million times. What am I going to do? You know what I mean? Like, no, I absolutely agree with you because sometimes I have to sometimes me and my husband we flip flop on the up and down and who's calm and who's up and down. We take turns on that. So when he's up and down, it's usually in those situations where we have to get our sons out of their comfort zone or our sons out of their normal routine, and he doesn't like it because he's one that loves his routine and loves his comfort zone. But I'm one of those. It goes with the flow. Everything's gonna work out eventually. You know what I mean? People that are optimistic. It's an adventure. Let them experience the moment. It's not always gonna happen. They need to learn how to be adaptive. You know what I mean? Because I think that's one thing with life when you especially walk blindly is that you have to be adaptive. You know what I mean? You have to have that willingness to be adaptive. You know what I mean? Because it seems like you had to learn that when you had to adapt to this new change in your life. And for your daughter, I mean, have you spoken to her and how was her thoughts on this everything happened?
In terms of going sailing or
Yeah, yeah, going sailing and walking blindly because I'm assuming she has like her own perspective on walking blindly into this adventure with you guys.
oh yeah, she is now 20. So
Okay.
my baby has grown up. We made the decision when she was 8, and we
Okay.
treated it very much as a family decision. And she was completely on board. Of course, you think about an 8-year-old, and they are just up for adventure. And
Okay.
and we had like lived our life like that mostly, where we travel and yeah, some things are unknown. She is a personality that is very similar to mine in a lot of ways, and that
That's good.
we do so much better. We know what to expect. However, snow, but takes that all the time. And so she just was on board for everything. We went for 2 years. So when we went, she had just turned 10, and we came home just a couple months after she turned 12. A vastly different human on the female front. So we, just to put it in perspective, we did menopause and puberty on this 34-foot boat. Um, yeah. And she, by the time we got home, she was needing her peers, and she was needing, that is their focus shift from very, parent to peers. And we knew
Yeah.
it. And believe it or not, there are actually an awful lot of families out there doing the sort of, they call it cruising. So it's not like cruise ship cruising, but it's um, personal vessel cruising. And there are a
Yeah.
lot of kids out there. And so, you kind of follow the kid boats, and the kid boats stick together so that you have a group of peers. Um, she is now, so we got back when she was 12. She asked if we could stay put for junior high and high school. And, that's a very valid request. And so we honored that. She is now in university in Scotland. So talk about like not marching to her own drum. She fell in love with it. She said, that's where I want to go to college. And we didn't stand in her way. So and every year, I mean, just some of the things that walking blindly, just trying to figure out how much this adventure was going to cost us. I could
Yeah.
find tuition easily, but I'm embarrassed to admit how long it took me to find out how much room and board would be, because it's called accommodations and catering over there.
Oh, okay
Oh,
then.
of course it is. Just every single thing about it, the application process, the admissions process, the process through you apply to a specific program. And so, like, changing majors isn't
Yeah.
something they really do there.
Yeah.
Um, every single thing about it has been different from her US counterparts. And so I think learned, go ahead and,
Yeah.
hit that staircase, even though you can't
Exactly.
see the top of it. And sometimes instead of a straight staircase, I think of it more as a spiral staircase.
I do too. That's how I envision it. So when you said staircase,
Yes,
my staircase was
you've already
already
got a
swirled. Yeah,
spiral.
yeah, we were already spiraling out. Mine does not go straight. Believe me, I can't see diagonally. It does not work like that for me. Mine's straight up, swirling around all the way to the top, figuring out life. Maybe doing some curves along the way, pulling a Harry Potter, switching it out. I don't know, but it's okay for me,
That's
and
my kind
I'm
of staircase. I'm with you.
exactly. And I'm so glad that you gifted your daughter this spirit of adventure of just like, you know what, let's try it. Let's take the risk. Why not? Why not? We learned something and
Oh, yeah.
we gain something from it. You know what I mean? And I think that's something that people forget is that when you walk into a situation that you're unsure of and you're just you feel timid. I loved also when you brought up courage, and it's along with fear, because I was
Mhm.
one thing I'm learning is that courage, you step on fear, and confidence, you step on doubt. So you work together, walking on that staircase. Look at
Oh, I
that.
like
See?
that.
You
I
know what I
like
mean?
that.
Walking up, because at the end of the day, it's like we have to keep going. You know what I mean? That's always going to be there. But I also love how you also brought up, it's like it shows you your boundaries. You know what I mean? It shows your limits. It shows you what you like. It shows you like your natural survival instincts, that discrimination. It shows you so many things, but it allows you to make that choice. Like you said earlier, it's like it allows you to most definitely make that choice. And it sounds like no matter what we do in our lives, we have to remember our choices, our yeses now affects our
Oh,
future.
very
Our
much.
no's now affects our future. So it's like we have to put that into consideration. So I have to ask you, what would you tell your younger self if you could tell your younger self anything?
Hold your hat. It's going to be a wild ride. Um, I am not one of those who dwells in regrets. Um, I love that each step and misstep has led me to where I am now. Um, and it's funny because, having a 20-year-old is kind of like talking to your younger self. Um, have faith this is going to work out.
Yeah.
Um, have I think what I would tell my 20-year-old self anytime I was on a downswing is you have no idea what's to come. And so maybe if you could see the stuff at the top of the staircase, like, is that it? Hey,
Mhm.
well, maybe I'm not so excited about that. Like, so maybe just not knowing is a blessing. It's not hard. It's much more of a keep going. You never know where this is going to evolve into.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You never know. I think that's a beautiful thing. And I think that's also a great thing because a lot of people I spoke to, some of them they don't have, regrets, so they don't think of that. What would they tell the younger self? You know what I mean? So they really do have to think about it when they come onto my
Yeah.
show because it's not a thought process that goes through their filter.
Yeah.
So totally understandable. But what was different with what you said was the fact that it's like speaking to your younger self as your child. And I
Oh,
was
yeah.
just that blew my mind again. Kimberly, goodness gracious, you come on my show and you just drop knowledge after knowledge after knowledge.
I like that.
I love it because when parents, oh my goodness, I'm a parent. So, parents, there's so many parents out there. When you see your child as a reflection of who you are
Oh,
and what you would actually say to your child, wouldn't you want to show your inner child, that younger you, the
mm-hmm.
love, the respect, the consideration, the understanding, the empathy, oh my goodness, the list can go on like a scroll rolling and rolling on down
Mm-hmm.
for miles on end. Because let's be honest, if we put that into perspective as a parent, I think parents would have a better relationship with their children. You know what I mean? Because there are some parents out there that don't have that relationship with their child because they don't have that understanding. You know what I mean? Or they don't have that perspective of their child in that way, and it's a sad thing to say, but unfortunately, we have to think about it. And that's why we're having this
Yeah.
conversation. So time is catching up to us. Kimberly, what can be some lasting words of wisdom that you can leave us off with to keep on thinking?
Oh, go for it is my lasting wisdom. Dream it, plan it, and do it. When I came home from sailing, I have written my whole life. I've never published anything. When I came home from sailing, I finally knew I had a story. And I figured out how to self publish my first book, a memoir called Crew of Three. And it's about our gang moving on to the boat, that the decisions about moving on, and then the first few months that we set sail. And so it gives a lot of insight into all of these issues. I don't know what I'm doing. Homeschooling, holy cow! If you think being a parent has no user manual, there is nothing to prepare you for how to homeschool your child. I mean, every child is different, and then every option is different. And we went 10 years ago. Connectivity was so much different. So we didn't have an internet. It's not like I could just Google stuff.
Yeah.
We turned off our cell phones as we left. Um, it was very much a faith the next step will be revealed when it's time to come. And I did the same thing with writing the book and publishing it. Um, it is now available anywhere you buy books. Amazon obviously is the primary place to buy media. However, I figured out how to get it into the Barnes and Nobles, to the libraries, which was very important to me, to all the independent bookstores, which are near and dear to my heart. Um, and now I'm in the process of learning how to record an audiobook. My I don't know where you record, but my bedroom is my recording, or my walk-in closet is my recording studio. And so I've recorded it all, and I'm learning how to edit and produce it. And hopefully one day it'll be out on audiobook.
Oh, that's a beautiful thing. It just shows that the possibilities are endless, that nothing
And
really stops you besides you. You know what I mean? You
mm-hmm.
can be your worst nightmare. You know what I mean? You can be your worst enemy. You can end yourself without even realizing it. Because
Oh,
look
you can
at
talk
you.
yourself out of so many great things.
I
We can talk. I
know.
call it my itty bitty shitty committee, and it's the little gang that stands there and tells you what are you doing? Nobody wants to read about your family and doing this and doing that. They don't care about what antibiotics you put in your offshore medical kit, even that I had an offshore medical kit. I mean, who am I to write this? And then I'm like, who am I not to?
Yeah, I know. My shitty itty bitty committee is so loud. They be having fucking meetings every day on the
Have
hour,
riots up
every
there.
hour. I know they be having riots, a whole picket fence and everything. We know you can't do it. Like, no, I can't do it. No. So yes, I know exactly what you mean. I think everybody does have that committee
Oh
and we
yeah,
need
we
to
all do,
stomp on
don't
it.
we?
Tell it no, not today, not this hour. You
Flick it off.
cannot.
I
Exactly
just
right.
flick it off.
Exactly. Flick it off. Just wipe it off. No, no, not
Make me
today.
flick you off.
I love it. Thank you so much, Kimberly, for sharing your time and your perspective with me. And mm, excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys want to know more about Kimberly, because how could you not? How could you not want to know more about her book and everything that she has to offer the world, right? With this conversation, I'm pretty sure it
Thank
just
you.
kept you thinking. So, with that being said, please keep thinking, y'all. Bye.